If you have been online for the past few years, or especially in 2025, you would know that there is a loneliness epidemic happening, especially in younger generations. I have been meaning to talk about it a little bit more, especially after I watched this video titled The Strange Hatred of Lonely People. The video itself was talking about how there is backlash towards lonely content creators who create like cozy lifestyle, lonely, like doing things on your own kind of content. So as someone who somewhat leads a life like that, a lonely life essentially, I kind of want to give a little bit of my 2 cents on this. Yeah, this will be a little bit of a personal rant, okay? But as usual, welcome back to Lemoni. Sure, you've heard of the loneliness epidemic before. Even though there's a generation-wide loneliness epidemic, I think we usually just hear about the male loneliness epidemic. But that's not what I'm talking about today, okay? I'm talking about sort of the general consensus of Gen Z just not having a lot of friends, not going out a lot, not engaging in that kind of behavior anymore, and why that is, okay? In the video I've mentioned earlier, like I said, there was backlash against people or creators who create like lonely lifestyle videos online, especially on TikTok. And the creator itself, the creator of the video, she was essentially defending those people and defending those creators. A lot of the people and a lot of the backlash was essentially about how these content creators are essentially promoting isolation. And they essentially try to tell people to do what is normal. As I said, the creator was defending them and defending against that backlash, saying that some people just prefer that kind of lifestyle, which I agree with. But I also agree with everyone else, okay? Life is complicated. Let me explain, okay? I live a very isolated life, okay? And I never meant to live such an isolated life, but I think I grew up in a Middle Eastern family, and if you don't know anything about that, it is essentially just pure and utter chaos, okay? It's very overstimulating, and I think I've always just craved being alone. I just didn't understand what it is, why I craved it, but I just always craved being alone. When I was younger, I had this thing where I would sleep really, really, really early, not because my mom forced me to or anything like that. I just like to sleep early, and because of that, I woke up really early, and I would wake up around 4 a.m. and I would sit and my whole family's asleep. At that time, I just sit there and I would watch TV and I watch whatever I want and I do whatever I wanted, and those few hours of being alone were so nice, and were so good because at home it's overstimulating, and then at school it's overstimulating, so that was the only time I had to recharge. So those few hours I had of alone time before going to school were super important to me. It feels amazing, okay? Being alone feels amazing, okay? You get to refresh, recharge, you allow your space for you to think and not constantly be influenced by other people, which is that's normal. You live in a house, you're going to be influenced by other people, your thoughts are going to be influenced by other people, your feelings are going to be influenced by other people, and that's normal. But it feels nice to have that alone time to recharge and just make space for yourself. I've built my adult life essentially around that. I love being alone. I love being by myself. I love not having a lot of friends, even though I do want to have more friends, but I like the fact that I'm not constantly surrounded by people or constantly with people, and there's a lot of space for myself, okay? Because otherwise my mental health will deteriorate. I also think that learning to be alone is so important. Bell Hooks talks about this a little bit in her book, All About Love. It is so important to be alone and build a life by yourself and be able to live and think and just be able to exist by yourself, because I think sometimes people are, but and I see this quite a bit, okay? Some people are just with other people because they don't want to be alone. That is the sole reason why they're with people. Essentially, they're kind of using these people as pacifiers because either they're uncomfortable and they can't be alone, or they're too scared to be alone. So they're essentially using these people. So I believe it's really important to learn to be alone and to learn to build tolerance and acceptance of being by yourself and maybe possibly continuing to be by yourself in the future, because you never know what happens, right? So learning that is so important. Otherwise, you're gonna be stuck in horrible relationships or bad friendships because you just would rather have that than nothing. And I think that also being by yourself really helps you a lot as a person, because when you're alone, like, you're influenced by people less, you're influenced by other people's thoughts less, and you're able to actually think for yourself for a bit and see what you think about life and what you think about things when there's not someone constantly telling you what you should be. So it feels really good, and I think it's really important. But here's the issue, okay? That's the issue, and that's what I'm saying, because I agree with both sides, is being alone is so addicting. It's so addicting, and avoidance is so easy, okay? It's so easy to like protect yourself and simply just not meet anybody. And you won't feel anxious. You will not feel overstimulated. You essentially will dig yourself in a hole where it's so safe and nice, but it's still a hole, right? You're still stuck in a hole, right? And I've been reading up about this a little bit more. I think that people can be horrible towards others that isolate. And the video I was talking about, she mentioned like an article that was telling individuals to be normal, to go out clubbing. And I saw a Substack article that was essentially saying the same thing. She's like, you should go out and party. Like, I was just like you, and I thought that life was being at home, but the reality, life is partying, and you should go out clubbing. And I don't necessarily agree with this. I feel like I hate, and it triggers me so much when other people tell you what is normal. I feel like there is certain things that are considered normal, like certain things like, you know, crimes and racism and stuff like that we all know that this isn't normal and we all should be against, right? We all should not be engaging in those things. But other than that, there are no rules, right? You don't have to go out and party. You don't have to like partying. You don't have to like drinking. Because what is normal is usually modeled after extroverted personalities. So if you are introverted and you do not enjoy those things, or simply you don't enjoy those things, you're essentially not considered normal. But that doesn't mean you're boring, and it doesn't mean you're not normal. It just means you have a different personality, and that's okay. Not everybody likes the same things, and that's okay. Also, as I said, it can be harmful. The Substack article I was reading that was talking about this specific issue titled "The Feminine Urge to Disappear." And I think she puts it very well, right? So at first, the whole disappearing thing feels like you're at peace and was a powerful and strong thing to do. But time after time, it leads to numbness. Even though it was the right decision, knowing that there is no going back, it becomes the default. Leaving means that no one is able to reject me. But it also means that I am never again permanently in someone's life. So why should anyone still stay? I became addicted to fresh starts, to reinventing myself. But all I ever do is avoid everyone and isolate myself. So essentially, in the process of protecting your peace, you start to essentially get rid of people. And like I said earlier, it's so easy to be avoidant. It's so easy. It's so, like, because it feels so good. Like, it's so simple because you're never being stimulated by anybody. You just have to ignore people. It's so easy. If you've never left the house, if you haven't left the house for a while, it becomes so easy to just stay at home all the time, right? And it's addicting. It feels good because you just, like, at that moment, you feel so comfortable and at peace, and the idea of you leaving the house sounds ridiculous to you even. Sort of the same thing, even though it is harming you. Like, staying at home for such an extended period of time is gonna harm you, but for the moment, it feels like, well, I'm very comfortable. Why should I get out? It's the same thing, right? When you're doing this avoidance and you're isolating yourself, you are losing the ability to interact with individuals. Trust me, I know. And because you lose all kinds of social interactions you can possibly get, it feels harder and harder, and you essentially are doing a self-fulfilling prophecy of not being able to be a good friend and then meeting people, and then because you haven't had the social interactions or the social skills, because you lose them after a while, you're unable to be a good friend, and those people don't like you and they treat you badly or they hurt you because they're also like just human beings, whatever. And then you kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna avoid them, bye. And then you kind of get stuck in this always alone pattern. And I think this trend, especially in Western societies, is a result also of a hyper individualistic culture. I made a video about this before, if you want to watch it, but essentially, I think I'm gonna summarize it really quickly. Everyone wants a village, no one wants to be a villager. In a culture that constantly pushes you to cut out anyone in your life the minute they inconvenience you a little bit. It pushes you to think that you don't owe anyone anything and no one owes you anything, but you do. And everyone else owes you too. Like, that's just how life is. That's how it is to live in a society. We owe each other everything, and we also owe each other to work with each other and help make each other's lives better. We owe each other things. I think also it is deeply rooted in binary thinking, which I think is very prevalent around the world in general, not just in Western society. But essentially, when you make a mistake, you're immediately labeled bad, and that means if you make a mistake, that means it's over. Like, you are a horrible person, you're a bad person, and we're gonna put you in the bad category, and everybody needs to remove you out of their lives. But that's not the case. Humans make mistakes all the time, and it's not okay to just cut people off because of that. But if someone repeatedly hurts you and is clearly not apologetic about it, then yes, I agree with it. But I think we just pull the plug real quickly, and that's the issue. I also think it's stemming from surveillance, and surveillance culture is making its way to the West. I grew up in surveillance culture because I'm Middle Eastern, so essentially family, friends, neighbors, everybody in society is always watching, okay? They're always watching, they're always keeping track, and if someone does something bad, they'll immediately judge and they'll talk about them to everyone else. And so you grew up with this constant fear of being perceived, and you're terrified of other people talking badly about you, because this is like a huge importance to the society to be perceived positively. Hyper vigilant on being the best person possible, which is not humanly possible, so you instead isolate, right? And Oli Sanvia kind of made a great video about this. I highly recommend you watch it. But the constant surveillance, I think, in the West is a bit different, because it actually stems from technology and social media rather than from like immediate society just judging you constantly. But basically, being or feeling like you're constantly under surveillance, or there's someone else watching, paying attention to you, or might be filming you and putting you on the internet to make fun of you, etc. That surveillance causes people to feel a lot of anxiety about how they're being perceived, and instead they'd rather just isolate so they don't have to deal with that. I've always been an avoidant person. It's my mom's coping mechanism, and it became my coping mechanism as well. But like I said, it's a coping mechanism. So like, what are we coping with for us to all just start wanting to isolate? It would not be a video of mine if we do not talk about this, but it's capitalism. Okay? Work environments suck, okay? We barely get paid to live. Can't buy a house. We cannot retire. We work really, really long hours, and we're barely able to pay rent. Groceries are expensive, rent prices are increasing, meaning that you probably cannot live your job, so you have to commute for long hours, meaning you have a lot less time for yourself. You don't have time to socialize, to go out with friends, to go drinking, to do all of those things that you're supposed to do, to meet friends, or, you know, keep your friendships intact. Actually, most people don't even have the money to do that anymore. I personally drink, but I've seen alcohol prices and they're absolutely fucking insane. Guys, why are you paying that for a drink? I don't know. I'm not judging, but like, it feels like way too much, honestly. Who in our generation has the time and the money to do all of that when it requires so much work, and it's so much easier to just go home and get all of that you need, like those stimulants that you need from TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. So much easier and a lot less time consuming and a lot less expensive. The people's reaction is not really the issue. The fact that people are lonely and isolating is a reaction, and the reaction is not the issue. The issue is the world that we live in and the systems that are causing people to act that way. We should instead not focus on pushing the people who are the victims of the systems to change their behavior and just acclimate to the situation. We should instead be talking about how we can change so that the people, the kids, the generations, our generations can actually live a good life. And so that means changing the culture. That means changing the systems. Rather than demonizing the whole generation, trying to cope with something that is happening to them as best as they can, we should change the systems, and we should advocate for that instead. And yeah, people have preference, right? Some people enjoy solitude and quiet living. Some people enjoy to party and constantly be around people. Too much of solitude can be a bad thing, and too much of partying can be a bad thing, right? Instead, we should aim to be in the middle, right? Learn to be alone and be okay with being alone and having time for yourself. But at the same time, it's also really important to have a community and to have human interactions and to have places to go out. And it doesn't have to be partying. Like, I don't enjoy parties, okay? Ever since I was a child, I've hated partying and I've never enjoyed parties. So if you tell me, like, want to go pottery painting or you want to go to a party, I'm gonna choose pottery painting. So we can, like, those of us who enjoy hobbies over these kind of things, like, we can go do our hobbies with other people and we can go into book clubs and do all of these things. This is why I started my own book club, right? We can do those things with community and other human beings. We don't have to do what is considered stereotypical, like, socialization. And at the same time, however, it is important to remember that the reason why people are isolating is simply a reaction to something that is happening to them, right? It's the unfair situation that they're thrown into and the constant surveillance that we're exposed to. So we won't be able to just solve the issue by pushing ourselves to be better. We also have to make real change and advocate and political activism, right? We cannot just ask the kids to change when you refuse to change the system. All right, so what do you guys think? I really want to hear what you guys think. Do you think the loneliness epidemic is real? I think some people feel like it's not real. But yeah, I do think it's real. It is something that we are doing. I just don't think it's necessarily the issue. I think the issue is the world, right? But I also think if you are a type of person who does isolate quite a bit, and tries to keep away, is it you're doing this because you're trying to protect your peace, or are you doing this because of certain issues you're in? And also, like, I do genuinely, like, because I'm like this, right? I do genuinely think that we do still need to interact with human beings, and we still need to try our best to be part of society. It's really important, I think, in my opinion. So yes, I do think protect your peace, but also remember that you gotta get out there and you gotta live life, you know? It doesn't have to be traditional extroverted bullshit like partying and drinking, because I don't know, it's just so many people out there don't enjoy these things, right? And that's okay. But yeah, what do you guys think? I really want to hear what you guys think in the comments, because I really like talking to you guys in the comment section. So yeah, that's all for me today, and I'll see you guys in my next video as usual. Please like and subscribe. It actually really helps the channel. And I did notice that when I tell people, where I forget to tell people to like and subscribe, it actually happens less often, which is weird. I guess you guys need the reminders, that's all. So please like and subscribe. It helps the channel out quite a bit. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Which, by the way, if you guys have topic ideas, please drop them, because sometimes I like the reason that how I choose my topics is usually like I see something online or I like have a conversation or I read something in a book and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, I want to deep dive it, and then when I deep dive it, I'm like, okay, this is fun, like let's make this into a video. Sometimes I don't have anything, because there are weeks that pass by where I don't really read anything of value, and I'm like, what do I talk about? So I really appreciate it if you also give me topics, because that helps out, I think. Anyway, I'm gonna go now. I'll show you Moon. Okay, she's not. Can you look there? No? Okay. I'm gonna go now. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.